All right, Algebra 1, it's time for one of the most important skills that you can have in algebra. This applies to your science classes right as well. It's all about solving for a variable. Sometimes we've got these equations where we don't have all the information. We've got more variables than we know what to do with, but we can rearrange them so we can have it how we want it. What do I mean by that? It says solving for a variable. Again, this is QM4 here. What we have are called literal equations. All right. Literal equations are equations that contain two or more variables. There are many literal equations in the form of math, science, and engineering formulas. Engineering, love it. These formulas may seem like they can only be solved for the variable that is isolated in one side of the formula, but we can use inverse operations and the properties of equality. We can rearrange those formulas so that any, any variable can be isolated. Okay, it's the same way we solve equations. Let's look at this first one. This example is how do you solve the equation 42 equals 6x? Well, we know x is being multiplied by 6. The inverse operation of multiplication is division. We divide both sides by 6. It says, what's the reason for dividing? Because x is being multiplied by 6. It's being multiplied by 6. Division is inverse operation. Inverse op. There we go. Why are we dividing by 6? Because we were multiplying by 6. Because we were multiplying by 6. And if I do that, 42 divided by 6 happens to be 7. So we rearrange the equation so x was found. We got x equals something. How are we going to do this part? It says the mathematical formula for the volume of a rectangular prism, B equals VH, or more commonly, volume is equal to length times width times height, is a literal equation. We've got a whole bunch of variables in there. V is the volume, L is the length, W is the width, and H is the height. Using inverse operations, we can rearrange this formula to solve for anything. It doesn't have to be V equals. We can make it L equals, or W equals, or H equals. Well, let's do this. In the formula V equals LWH, the variable H needs to be isolated. Remember, when you've got variables next to one another, that indicates multiplication. So how would I get rid of, because I'm trying to get H by itself, so I want something either equals H or H equals. So how do I do that? Well, it's being multiplied by L and W. So to get rid of multiplication of L and W, I need to divide by L and W. So because the operation of multiplication is used in the formula, we're going to use division to isolate H. If we divide both sides by L and W, L divided by L is 1. W divided by W is 1. On the left side, I get V divided by L times W equals, the right side is just H. We've isolated it. It is equals H or H equals. How is this helpful? Well, let's say you knew the volume, you knew the length, you knew the width, but you didn't know the height. Now you can plug the things that you know in and solve. Okay, so let's do the same thing. Using this same formula, rewrite the formula to solve for L. Rewrite the formula to solve for L. Remember, it's V equals L times W times H. L is being multiplied by W and H. To isolate, I need to divide by W and H on both sides. On the right side, W divided by W is 1. H divided by H is 1. Those simplify to 1. So let's kind of write what I've got. On the left side, I've got V divided by WH. On the right side, I've got 1 times L. We solved for L. Something equals L or L equals something. L is the isolated or by itself variable. Super important concept. Rearranging scientific formulas. Science. Love it. Using inverse operations to isolate the unknown variable in a scientific formula. The formula for density is D equals M divided by V, or density equals mass divided by volume. Density equals mass divided by volume. There we go. It's pretty sciencey right there. I love it. Right after my heart here. We've got lead with a very high density of 11,340 kilograms per cubic meter. Plastic foam has a very low density of 75 kilograms per cubic meter. The formula for density can be rearranged to solve for W or for M. Right now it's D equals, but we could get M equals or V equals. Well, in this case, let's look what we've got. A sinker on a fishing line is made of lead. We know the density of lead from right there, and has a volume. We've got our density here. We've got our volume here. What don't we know of the three variables? Mass. What is the mass of the sinker? Okay, so we've got this formula, D equals M divided by V. And I need to make it look like either equals M or M equals. Again, either M equals or equals M. I just wrote over the Fishman, sorry. What is happening to M? The only thing happening to M is it's being divided by V. What is the inverse operation of division? I'll wait. Yeah, multiplication. So we need to multiply both sides by V. And then here, I'm going to rearrange this as D times V equals, well, this simplifies to 1 times M, which is M. There we go. And here's the beauty of this. We know the density from up there, from right up here of lead. That's where this came from. We know the volume because we were given the volume right here. And now we could find the mass, 1,700 kilograms. Ooh, I like these. I like these a lot. So let's look again. It says the design for a life preserver requires 3/10 of a kilogram of plastic foam. I'm already going to identify this. This is mass of plastic foam. Oh, plastic foam. We know something about plastic foam because I just saw it up here. Plastic foam has a low density. We know the density of foam. The density of foam, density equals 75 kilograms per cubic meter. What is the volume? We need to find V. Very, very interesting. Okay. Now, here is one way to do this. This is how they did it. We need to get either V equals or something equals V. They started out by multiplying both sides by V. And here's what happens when you do that. You get dV equals M. And then to solve for V, you can divide both sides by D. Because D divided by D simplifies to 1, you've got 1V equals M divided by D. Here's another way. You can think of these as ratios. D equals M divided by V. Did I just change anything about D? No. Nope, not at all. Not at all. So you can think of this as cross multiplication. This is where this comes from, right? I could do D times V equals M times 1, dV equals M. You could also do it this way because since these are equal ratios, you could flip both ratios. Watch this. I could also say that 1 divided by D equals V divided by M. Again, if you have two ratios equal to one another, it's called a proportion, by the way. And right here, we can do that. Think about it this way. Is 1/2 the same as 2/4? Yeah, it is. What if you flipped them? Is 2 over 1 the same as 4 over 2? Yeah, still is. That's why you can flip them and keep them the same. And here, what's the only thing happening to V? Well, it's being divided by M. Inverse operation multiplied by m. And what do you know? M divided by D still equals V. Ta-da! Let's go with our given values. We've got mass is on the top. Our mass was 0.3 of a kilogram. Our density is on the bottom, which is 75 kilograms per cubic meter. Oops. 75 kilograms per meters cubed. And if I do that, 0.3 divided by 75, double checking my math here, is 4 thousandths. 4 thousandths of a cubic meter. All right. It is your turn. I want you to read number 2. I want you to read number 2 and take a minute to solve it. You'll also notice you're going to have to answer a question before you can move on. Thank you, Edpuzzle. I'm going to know who's watching these videos. There we go. So you actually don't have to pause it, as it turns out. It's just going to give a video. But I'm going to give this awkward pause so I know where it is. Okay, let's go ahead and work on this thing. All right, number 2 says for altitudes up to 36,000 feet, the relationship between ground temperature and atmospheric temperature can be described by the formula T equals negative, what is that, 35/10,000ths A plus G, in which T is the atmospheric temperature in degrees in Fahrenheit, A is the altitude in feet at which the atmospheric temperature is measured, and G is the ground temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. Determine the altitude. What don't we know? We don't know the altitude when T is equal to negative 27.5 degrees Fahrenheit and G is 60 degrees F. What we need to do is rearrange this. We don't know altitude. We need to get this to A equals or something equals A. So let's take what we've got here. We don't have a ton of room. I don't know why they did that to us, but T equals negative, we got get our leading 0 in here, 35A plus G. Well, this is just a 2-step equation. If I knew all these things, I know that I would subtract G from both sides first. So I'd have T minus G equals negative 35/10,000ths A. And then the inverse operation of multiplication is division. Divide both sides by 35/10,000ths. Ooh, let's try that again. 35/10,000ths. If I divide the right, I need to divide the left. This simplifies to 1 or 1A, and I end up with T minus G divided by negative 35/10,000ths equals A. I have solved for A, and now I need to plug in what I know. Do I know a T and do I know a G? I know a temperature at the at the height, and I know the ground temperature. I know T and I know G. Plug in what you got and solve. Negative 27, whoa, negative 27.5 minus 60 divided by 35/10,000ths is A. And if I do that, this is negative 87.5 divided by negative 35/10,000ths. And if I do that out, A equals, let me double check my math here, 25,000. And what is A? What's the units for A? A is the altitude in feet. So the altitude is 25,000 feet. Again, the most important thing here is that you're rearranging these equations. All right, let's go on to the next page. Double check my work here. There we go. Rearranging literal equations. All right. Using inverse operations to rearrange literal equations can be applied to literally any formula. The interest formula, I equals P times R times T, I equals PRT, is another example of a literal equation. I is interest, P is the principal or initial amount, R is the rate, and T is the time. So it says find the number of years used in the calculation of a $1,000 loan at an interest rate of 5% with interest totaling $600. Well, let's take a look here. The number of years. We don't know years. Years was T. So in other words, we need to make this either T equals or something equals T. And how do we do that? Well, it's I equals P times R times T. So I'm going to divide both sides by P and R. This simplifies to 1 T. So T equals I divided by P R. Make sure your rate is a decimal. Change your percent to a decimal and put your values in. You know that I was your initial amount, or I'm sorry, I was interest. You know that the $1,000 loan was the initial amount or the P value. So this was P. This is T. The interest rate is R as a decimal. We plug that in right there. You do a little fancy math on those calculators or Desmos or whatever you want to do, and you get T equals 12. Yay! 12 what? 12 years. T equals 12 years. The length of time for the loan was 12 years. Let's see what we got here. Determine the interest rate. Listen, I'm not even going to read the rest of this. Right? Determine the interest rate. What's the thing that I don't know? The interest rate. R. So I know I need to have R equals or something equals R. For a $2,000 loan that will be paid off in 4 years with interest totaling $640. I see my principal value because that's my $2,000 loan. My time is 4 years and my interest is $640. The first thing I need to do though is get this equation, this literal equation, to be something equals R or R equals something. What am I going to do? How do I just got R multiplying it by P and T. What's the inverse operation of multiplication? Yeah, division. If I'm multiplying by P and T, divide both sides by P and T. And what happens? These simplify to 1 or 1. Oh my goodness. So these simplify. We're getting rid of P and T to find R, right? P and T simplify to 1. I've got I divided by P times T equals R. There we go. I know P, I know T. Substitute the values. We said I was 640. We said P was 2,000. And we said the time was 4 years. We do the 2,000 times 4, 640 divided by 8,000 is 8 hundredths. We need to take that 8 hundredths and make it a percent. We move the decimal over 2 places. 1, 2. The interest rate is 8% per year. Okay. You're about to have something else pop up. I want you to do this problem. Number 2 it says the formula y equals mx plus b is the slope-intercept form of the equation of a line. Solve the equation for m. In other words, you want to get this in the form of m equals or something equals m. And here's the magical pop-up. Boop. And I'm awkwardly back. So y equals mx plus b. Okay. If I was writing this out, what's the first thing happening to m? Well, it's being multiplied by x. And then I'm adding b. Oh, it's like a 2-step equation. I can work the same way, even though there's not numbers. It's beautiful. So this is the do. To undo, I would need to subtract b first from b from both sides. And then I would need to divide both sides by x to get this alone. So let's do this. I'm going to rewrite this. Y equals mx plus b. I'm going to subtract b from both sides. I can't take away b from y. I don't know what they are. They're not the same variable either. I can't combine them. So I get y minus b equals m times x. And here we said we've done this part. Now I need to divide both sides by x. This x over here simplifies to 1. I get y minus b divided by x equals m. Okay, now I know this might be blowing your mind, and that's okay. That's okay. We're going to practice with this. All right, I'm going to go to the next page, show you that. Okay. I want to look at these. You're going to do 1 through 23 all, but I want to make sure you understand what you're looking for. Number 1 says c equals 2 pi r, or 2 times pi times r. You're solving for r, right? So for r means you need to get this into r equals or something equals r. That is your job. That's what the 4x or 4b or 4h, you're solving for those variables. All right. There's your job. Hope you guys have a great day or great night or whatever time you're looking at this. Maybe it's the morning. Miss you guys. Take care.